Hey, today I'll be talking about Book 1 of RuYi's Rare Love. The novel starts right in the thick of things with an 18-year-old Qingying at the previous emperor's funeral. She's crying, but the tears are not in the least bit sincere. As far as the person in the golden coffin, whether he was alive or dead, it really did not move Qingying much. He was simply her husband's father, the late emperor of the dynasty, the man who had abandoned her aunt. Qingying thinks about how soon everyone's statuses will be changing. At this point, Qingying sits just below the future empress in status, just barely outranking Gao Xiyue, who's at her side, also crying her eyes out. They might both be secondary consorts, but Qingying's family background and favor with the emperor mean that despite Xiyue being 7 years older than her, there's always a bit of a battle over who the real Mei, little sister, is. They've been kneeling and kowtowing for hours at this point, so it's not totally shocking when Langhua, the soon-to-be empress, faints. Xiyue immediately wants to call for the Empress Dowager and the Emperor, but Qingying steps right over her, telling the servants to get Langhua inside and that there's no need to bother the already exhausted mother and son. Xiyue moved to follow and serve Langhua inside, but in a flash, Qingying turned and blocked her, saying softly, "Someone must be left in charge here. The Empress Dowager and Dowager consorts have all gone inside to rest. The mistress and I are going inside, leaving you as the highest-ranking consort." Xiyue's eyes rippled like waves as she looked at Qingying. A trace of unruliness flashed in her gentle eyes, and she whispered softly, "The two of us are both consorts. How could I dare not be there to serve by my mistress's side?" She paused. "Besides, the mistress may not be so happy to see you when she wakes up." It's a strained push and pull between these two, as they know that they are only days away from the promotions that will decide how the rest of their lives play out. Every move could determine where they end up. Qingying wins out, managing to convince Xiyue to stay behind while she goes and serves Langhua. Langhua isn't out for long, and when she wakes, she is very glad to hear that Qingying intervened and did not let Xiyue inadvertently spread the news that the future empress was too weak to fulfill her duties. Qingying nodded. "I understand. Mistress, you only fainted because you were too anguished over the death of the late emperor. Sister Gao simply misspoke because she cares so much." Fu Cha breathed a sigh of relief. "At least you see things clearly." Her eyes lingered on Qingying. "But do you have to be so flawless in everything you do?" In a low voice, Qingying said, "In serving you, mistress, I dare not neglect my duties." Their conversation is fine on the surface, but there always seems to be a sort of muffled aggression behind every word Langhua says to Qingying. Clearly, as Xiyue pointed out, Langhua does not seem to see her as a friend. Just then, the emperor arrives, and without even a glance at Qingying, heads to his wife's side. Qingying notes that morning has left him looking rugged, and he hasn't been shaving his head or his beard. She stands awkwardly to the side as he asks after Langhua's health, and she, suddenly all sweetness and grace, apologizes for not doing her duty. It isn't until he's on his way out that she catches a word with him. The emperor took a few steps forward, and Qingying followed silently. The emperor asked quietly, "I don't look very good, do I?" Qingying wanted to laugh but didn't dare make a sound. She had to bite her lip to hold it in. The two looked at each other, and Qingying said, "Take care of yourself, your highness," just as the emperor said, "Qingying, take care of yourself." Qingying's heart pounded, and she looked at him in a daze. The emperor looked back and said tenderly, "I have to go ahead. Don't tire yourself out." "Yes," Qingying responded. She watched the emperor walk away, his attendants following closely. She felt her heart warm as a smile spread across her face. How sweet. Doctors confirmed that the empress is indeed quite exhausted from the whole funeral affair, and she sent her maid out to tell Qingying that the night's funeral will be left to her to manage. Xiyue is not happy to see her come back and take charge, but there's little she can do. Or so Qingying thought in any case. The ceremony starts, and it's time to begin crying. The person in charge should now kneel down and begin so that everyone else can follow behind them. Because Fu Cha was not there, Qingying began to cry. Just as she was about to kneel, Xiyue, who was standing a step beside her, suddenly knelt down first and took up a sorrowful cry. For a moment, everyone is stunned. Everyone knows that Qingying is meant to be in charge here, but with Xiyue already on the floor, no one knows what to do next. Su Liyun, a Gogo from the prince's manor, was at a loss for words. She couldn't hold herself back and said quietly, "Consort Yue, this Consort Qing's status is higher than yours." Xiyue ignored her completely, refusing to move, kneeling and continuing her cry. Qingying was humiliated. She was angry in her heart, but she held it in, standing stiffly without saying a word. Suoxin had gone pale and moved forward to say something, but Qingying held her back discreetly. Giving a look to Su Liyun, who was standing behind her, she slowly knelt down. Qingying has been outplayed. Legal move or not, Xiyue took the lead and now looks very much to be in charge, and she knows it. When time is up, she dismisses everyone, telling them not to be late to the next morning's session. Qingying can do nothing but leave along with everyone else. She storms out, walking angrily past her sedan chair and down the street at such a fast pace that finally Suoxin calls out to her to take a breath. Qingying stops, and only then does she realize that Lu Yun, panting and hair disheveled, has been chasing after her. Luyun gave birth only 3 months ago, but has braved the brisk walk to commiserate with Qingying. Qingying took in her disheveled state and felt even more unhappy. It's my fault. I hadn't realized you were following me. Timidly, Luyun said, You overstate things, secondary consort. My body is of little importance. What happened today, however, Sister Gao was so discourteous. How can she behave like that? Before Qingying can respond, they spot an elegant figure making her way over on a sedan chair. Yu Yan, another Ge, and clearly a pot stirrer. She asks if Qingying intends to tell the Empress Dowager and the Emperor so they can stand up for her. Qingying plays her part, saying gently that this is not the time for fighting. Only slightly miffed that she can't goad Qingying into a confrontation, Yu Yan says she was grateful for the show as she was starting to get sleepy, and she guesses that there will only be more to come. With that, she heads off, leaving Qingying and Luyun shaking their heads. Late that night, we cut to Langhua, unable to relax, thinking about her precious second prince, who has always been sickly. Her maid, Su Xin, soothes her, reminding her that second prince has the best of everything at the prince's dormitory, better even than his older brother, the first prince. Reminded of the boy, Langhua asks Su Xin if she has been reminding the staff not to bully the motherless child, to which Su Xin responds with a smile that she has. Qingying is also sleepless and listening to the chattering of her maid, Ruo. Ruo gushes that with Qingying being the clear favorite, despite being childless, she will undoubtedly end up the highest ranked of the consorts. She's so excited at the prospect that she doesn't even notice that her mistress's expression has gone cloudy. Finally, Qingying has to spell it out for her, snapping, The late emperor has just passed. If others were to see the joy clearly displayed on your face, 10 lives would not be enough to pay for your sin. Do you think we're still living in the prince's manor? Ruo is frightened, but calms down and excuses herself. Qingying sighs to her other maid Suo Xin to keep an eye on her. She's very much aware of Ruo's personality and the possible threat she poses to her future in the harem. Just as she's about to turn in, she gets a visitor. Hailan, yet another Ge, too sick to attend the day's funeral, but not so sick she didn't hear about Shiyue's disrespectful play. After a bit of chatting, she leaves with a polite goodnight, and Suo Xin comments on Hailan's loyalty, saying, after all, it was thanks to Qingying begging the emperor that Hailan was even able to get a title at all. Had it not been for her intervention, Hailan would have remained a disgraced embroidery maid, unable to hold her head up. With that bit of exposition out of the way, the night ends. Qingying wakes up early the next morning to attend to Langhua. Langhua asks after her bit of embarrassment yesterday, asking if she really can stand to be lorded over by the woman she's considered beneath her all these years. Qingying doesn't really know how to respond to that. Fucha stared at her for a moment, then regained her usual dignified and virtuous expression. In a soft voice, she said, Very well. I merely wanted to draw your attention to it. In reality, things may not be that dire. Fucha became a bit proud. After all, I am still the empress, the emperor's legitimate wife. As long as you mind your place, I will not allow Gao to harass you. The empress reminds her that she sees Qingying and Gao as equals, which is why she gifted them with such an expensive pair of bracelets. She does not want to see any infighting. She informs Qingying that Gao's family banner has been raised to the bordered yellow banner, meaning her rank now matches Qingying's, and so Qingying, she sighs, may have to learn to let some things go, including what happened the night before. Qingying leaves a sour taste in her mouth, and at the next ceremony it all becomes official. On this day of mourning, Shiyue knelt in front of Qingying as if it were a matter of course. Fucha did not say a word, but seemed to treat Shiyue more politely than usual. The others saw which way the wind was blowing, and in no time, the surprised expressions from the day before were gone, replaced with newfound deference and respect for Shiyue. If there's one skill palace people have down, it's knowing when to speak and when to shut up and bow. Which is why Qingying continues to be disappointed by Ruo's unguarded tongue. When she once again says how excited she is for Qingying's inevitable promotion to noble consort, Qingying has enough. She asks Ruo what her reaction would be if the emperor decided to make her a second-class female attendant, or even kick her out of the palace entirely. Ruo was at a loss for words. How could that happen? Qingying said calmly, Why not, with your loose tongue bringing me trouble? If you dare to say something like this to someone else, how could I not be implicated? Whomever the emperor decides to confer a title upon or demote is entirely his decision. How many lives do you have to think you can so carelessly speculate on his holy will? Qingying orders Ruo taken out of her palace, and though she seems to mean it, Ruo's desperate crying and begging in the end makes her take her words back. She knows she's been too lenient with Ruo, but the relationship she has with her as her dowry maid makes it hard to do what she should. She relents, but tells Ruo that if she dares say something like this again, beatings or even a death sentence are not out of question. Qingying doesn't only expect better from Ruo, but also herself. She reminisces on the past a bit and acknowledges that though she knows she grew up pampered and is a bit arrogant, she has to change now that she's entering the palace. After all, look how much has changed in only a few days. As she's lost in thought, she hears a loud noise outside. It's Lu Yun running through the cold autumn night to see her. She's pale and her face is covered in tears. Her third prince, only a few months old, is being taken away to live in the prince's dormitory. Lu Yun falls to the floor, begging Qing Yun to help her plead with Lang Hua to intercede. Jie, my words are of little weight and the mistress will pay me no mind, but you are different. You are the noble-born secondary consort. In the past, when we lived in the prince's manor, the mistress would follow your advice every now and then. Please help me beg her, please. With some help, Qing manages to get her seated. She comforts her, but reminds her that she knew this was an inevitability. Princes generally cannot be raised by their mothers lest they form too strong of an attachment and their maternal family begins to get ideas. She tells Lu Yun to stay strong, reminding her that her child will be away, but not gone. Qing took her handkerchief and wiped her tears. Endure it. You must endure it until you are powerful enough to raise your own child. So for now, you cannot make any mistakes. She took Lu Yun's hand and helped her to her feet. Now, clean yourself up and go to the Empress's palace. Thank her for the grace of allowing your son to be raised in the prince's dormitory. The reason you cried and ran over to my palace just now is that you were overly emotional for a moment and lost your head. But now you understand. This is a blessing and you are grateful to receive it. Mustering all the strength she has, Lu Yun follows Qing Ying's advice. Late that night, the Empress thinks back on Lu Yun coming to thank her and gets an idea in her head. She tells her maid to send a message to the nannies at the prince's dorm. Third prince must be taken care of, even more so than her own second prince. He must be given the best food and the most comfortable bedding, and he must be allowed to play as much as he wants. Confused, the maid heads out to pass on the message. As the days pass, the Empress Dowager begins to grow more and more unhappy that she hasn't been moved to proper lodgings. The emperor still hasn't decided what to do with the previous empress, and so it's hard to determine who should go where. Qing Ying goes to see her aunt, the previous empress, and she tells her that she must strive for more. The Ulanara clan cannot have another spurned woman. As Qing Ying leaves, she guesses that this will be the last time she sees her aunt. She knows her personality well and knows that she would rather go out on her own terms than wait until the Empress Dowager can have her final revenge. She then goes directly to the Empress Dowager, pretty much pledging her allegiance and promising that she will convince the emperor to get her moved to a palace that befits her station as the ultimate power in the harem. The Empress Dowager grants her a new name, RuYi. As RuYi leaves, the Empress Dowager comments to her maid that the spoiled little girl she's known all these years has started to grow up. The next morning, it's reported that the previous empress died of a heart attack. The Empress Dowager asks if RuYi would like to pay her respects, to which RuYi, holding back tears, responds that she would not dare neglect her post to go and pay respects to her guilty aunt. The Empress Dowager applauds her integrity and reminds everyone else to follow suit. RuYi goes to see the emperor and he admits that he still thinks of his biological mother and is becoming a bit fearful of the power the Empress Dowager wields. RuYi soothes his worries and convinces him to let the Empress Dowager move to Sinning Palace, fulfilling her promise. The emperor also takes the opportunity to give everyone their new ranks. We have second-class female attendant 1, first-class female attendant Hai, noble ladies Jia and Yi, imperial concubine Chun, consort Xian, RuYi, noble consort Hui, and of course, the empress. RuYi is not happy with her position or her new lodgings, but Hailan has it even worse. She comes crying to RuYi, begging her to ask the empress to move her out of Hui's palace. Hui has already started to bully her and she worries that it will only get worse. RuYi tells her that going to beg the empress will no doubt end with a rejection and things only getting worse for her. Hailan understands, not wanting to trouble her. The new empress wastes no time in starting her morning meetings and tells everyone that she has decided to implement some cost-saving measures. RuYi asks for permission to stop wearing her bracelet since the extravagant display of wealth goes against the new image she's going for. The empress's expression darkens slightly, like grass dying in the frost of the cold autumn wind. But soon, the autumn sun returned, shining brightly, and the chill evaporated without a trace. Despite RuYi's concerns, the empress is very insistent she keep it on. Everyone is dismissed, and RuYi, Hailan, and Shun end up overhearing Jia and Yi making fun of her new title Xian, made up of the characters for idol and woman. Jia giggles that she is indeed an idle woman, with the emperor never coming to see her. They realize RuYi is there, but Jia is not the least bit embarrassed or apologetic. RuYi knows better than to get in the mud with these two, but Hailan can't stand it, calling them disrespectful. Yu Yan narrowed her eyes slightly and with a wave said, Hai Changzai, come over here. Yu Yan's rank was higher than Hailan, so though she hesitated, she did not dare disobey her order. Hailan came closer and Yu Yan stretched out her hand, taking her chin and lifting her face to get a better look. The embroidery maid has become a Changzai, and now even her voice has gotten louder. Hailan turned red with embarrassment but couldn't say a word. Jin Yu Yan became more excited. Her silver nail guards traced across Hailan's face, reflecting flashes of light. Hailan felt goosebumps all over her body and in a trembling voice said, "Noble Lady Jia, what are you trying to do?" Yu Yan approached her with a smile. "I want..." Before she could finish speaking, RuYi had pushed her hand away. RuYi smiled coldly, protectively putting Hailan behind her. RuYi reminds Jia that she outranks her, but Jia isn't having it. "You may outrank me, but you are a descendant of the Ulanara clan, whereas I am of the Imperial Korean clan. In terms of status, I'm naturally much nobler than you. I am temporarily below you, but do you think your position as consort is so stable that I can't still come out on top one day?" RuYi smiled slightly. "You are a daughter of the Imperial Korean clan, but think further. No matter how good your clan is, it's just a vassal country of our Qing dynasty. It's a small country with only a handful of people, and even your king has to bow his head, let alone a mere clan daughter. If you really wish to discuss with me what identity and nobility are, you should have better control of yourself. Only when your words and actions are consistent with your status can people truly accept your claim. That is true nobility." Before RuYi finished speaking, she heard a gentle voice behind her. "I was wondering who it could be. Such a sharp-tongued, unforgiving person could only be Consort Shen. It's Hui, and she has fully come into her own. She is just loving lording her new power over RuYi and tells her that though she had to respect her in the past, proper order has been restored and now she is her subordinate. RuYi says a true leader commands respect naturally. They don't threaten or bully people into obedience. Then she turns and leaves. So the months pass, with the emperor not favoring anyone in particular, and a nicey little stalemate between these two camps. Until the empress pushes things along. She invites Hui over, and after sharing in her worry about not having a child and assuring her that it will happen soon, she casually mentions how RuYi has been showing off a plaque she received with words personally written by the emperor. Hui goes to see the emperor, whining until he agrees to make her a plaque too. She's so wrapped up in thoughts of beating RuYi that she completely misses the emperor giving eyes to a young pipa player. The next morning, the empress reports that they have another Mei joining their little family as a second-class female attendant. The empress shuts down all the grumbling when they hear about her lowly background, telling them not to dare make things hard on her. It isn't until later, when she's alone with Hui, that she lets out some of her frustration. She tells Hui that she had someone look into Mei's background and found out that the young musician was actually brought into the palace by RuYi's family to seduce the emperor. Hui is shocked that RuYi would stoop so low, and the empress says she herself never imagined it. She tells Hui that as her second in command, it's up to her to protect her and make sure that the harem stays running smoothly. With a bit more prodding, Hui takes the hint that RuYi cannot be allowed to have two supporting pillars in the harem. She promises to keep Hailan from getting noticed. RuYi overhears that Hailan is not getting enough coal and begins to send some of her own. She runs into Jia, who immediately congratulates her on her recent accomplishment. RuYi listens, puzzled, as Jia compliments her on being so clever as to use a pipa player to worm her way into the emperor's thoughts. RuYi has zero idea what she's on about. Noble Lady Jia's long, handsome eyebrows raise slightly, and she asks suspiciously, "Do you really not know, or are you pretending?" RuYi said honestly, "I really don't know." Noble Lady Jia looked at her, one eyebrow still suspended in disbelief. Then, with a slow breath, she said, "Wasn't Mei dying sent to the Nanfu troop by your maiden Ulanara clan?" Jia says everyone knows now that Mei was personally granted approval by her aunt to enter the palace before she died. She refuses to believe it wasn't some sort of plan they dreamed up together. RuYi watches her walk away, lost as hell. RuYi has Aro look into it, and it turns out it's all true. RuYi wonders if her aunt had ulterior motives, but she was never privy to any kind of plan involving Mei. A few days later, Mei comes to give her greetings and makes a splash, making it clear that she's no timid little girl. She catches RuYi on her way out and asks her to accompany her for a walk. They chat a bit, and Mei shares that she only became a pipa player because the late emperor likes pipa, so she was forced to change her studies. It seems to RuYi that Mei really was just randomly sent in by her aunt and not part of some deep plot. They run into Hui, these two get into an argument, we get the slappening, and everything here follows what happened in the drama. Hui finds out about RuYi sending Hailan charcoal, and that night a servant rushes in a panic saying Hailan has been caught stealing coal from Hui. She's already being punished. Her shoes removed, she's been made to kneel while servants beat the soles of her feet. RuYi rushes over as quickly as she can. When she arrives, she sees that Hailan's feet are bleeding. In case you don't know, feet are considered a very private part for women of this era, and even just the fact that they've been laid bare for all the servants to see is already way out of bounds. Then to add to all of this, RuYi realizes that Hui has gone out of her way to use an unwhittled wooden stick with pieces sticking out that pierce Hailan's skin. Hui orders her servant to begin hitting Hailan again, and she screams and almost faints. RuYi can't watch and rushes to her side to protect her. Hailan tells RuYi tiredly that she didn't steal anything, and then passes out in her arms. Mo Xin snatched Hailan from RuYi's arms, carrying over a copper basin filled with ice water and pouring it over Hailan with a loud splash. RuYi was shocked and angry, shouting, "Mo Xin, what are you doing?" Mo Xin smiled and said, Hai Changzai has fainted from the pain. If we don't use water to wake her up now, then how will we determine where the missing coal is hidden? RuYi goes to Hailan again, trying to dry her face with her scarf, and then Hui signals to her maid, who dumps another bucket of ice water, this time over both Hailan and RuYi. RuYi feels the shock all the way to her bones. Ayya, Mo Xin said hurriedly. Concubine Xian, I'm so sorry. Why were you so close to Hai Changzai? I thought that one basin might not be enough to wake her, so I added another. How did this... Hui gives a fake little chastisement, barely pretending this was an accident, but RuYi ignores them both, focusing on trying to warm Hailan up as she starts to regain consciousness. Seeing this, Hui decides she still hasn't had enough and tells her servant to check Hailan's clothes directly. When Mo Xin approaches, RuYi slaps her in the face, daring her to get any closer to Hailan. Angrily, Hui tells them that they will kneel right here until the servants find the missing coal, which means they will no doubt be kneeling all night. So Hailan, seeing how dire things are, tries to confess. Mo Xin again tries taking off Hailan's clothes, and at this point RuYi is so cold that she can barely hold herself up, let alone fight her off. In the midst of the chaos, a sudden commotion came from outside, and a eunuch's voice came in. Just like in the drama, the emperor seems to ignore all the messed up shit going on, asking Hui if her cold is any better. He offhandedly dismisses RuYi and Hailan, telling them to get decent, and when they reconvene, the emperor does his little trick of saying he told RuYi to give Hailan the coal. Hailan gets to go to RuYi's palace. Hailan's maid is put to death, but also has her mouth filled with the burning coals she lied about. The emperor reminds the servants that this is the kind of pain that awaits any other would-be blabbermouths, and with that, the matter is put to rest. Hailan is very hurt. I can't and don't want to try and translate all this traditional medicine stuff, but something cheap point in the middle of the foot was hit, so now she might have trouble walking forever. She will need to be taken care of very carefully. RuYi thanks Suoxin for going to get help, and Suoxin says it was really thanks to the junior eunuch, Li Yu. And then it's a lot of the same thing. Hailan is terribly frightened. RuYi is called in to see the emperor. She sees Li Yu. She goes in. It's the face cream plot. Hailan gets her out of it. RuYi gives Li Yu some advice. The emperor starts seeing her again, and RuYi does not forget to keep drilling it into her servants' heads that they cannot get cocky, especially Aro. I keep bringing this up because in the drama, I remember this was a major complaint of mine, that she never seemed to have any kind of control over her servants, or it almost seemed like she didn't care. Anyway, Suoxin runs into the hungry and mistreated first prince. Hui decides she wants to adopt him. Then even more scenes of RuYi cracking down on Aro when she talks out of turn, and Aro feeling like she's being wronged. RuYi brings up the emperor's mother on her birthday, and it turns into a fight. RuYi falls out of favor until the emperor sees the light. Oh, that rhymed. RuYi gets the first prince and takes him home. The nanny comes to spill her lies, and RuYi makes Yonghuang watch her beating, telling him to stay strong even if it is hard to watch. Then the emperor and RuYi reconcile. One day, Yonghuang comes home very sad, and RuYi gets it out of him that he has started studying with the second prince, and every time the second prince misbehaves, he is punished. The empress's precious son cannot be hurt, and they're trying to use seeing his brother punished as a consequence to keep second prince in line, but second prince is 6 and either doesn't get it or isn't old enough to have developed the compassion to care. I don't know any 6-year-olds. Do they understand and feel bad when their actions hurt others? The empress has also already made her move on third prince. Her order to treat third prince to the best of everything has left him lazy, spoiled, and very much behind for his age. He might never catch up, and the emperor certainly has no interest in a stupid son. This is a major reason why later in the drama we see that the third prince is always being berated for being stupid or not being able to keep up with his studies. The empress didn't do anything outwardly malicious though, so Chun has no recourse. She just has to stand aside as the empress ruins her precious baby boy. And this is the deep-seated grudge that Chun bears against the empress, and how Hailan is able to later manipulate her into scheming against the empress. RuYi and Aro run into a crying Lianxin. They ask what's wrong, but Lianxin is not willing to badmouth her mistress and says the empress treats her very well, better than some people who will kick out even a nanny with years of dedicated service. Aro couldn't help herself and immediately said, "Who are you referring to?" Lianxin smiled. "I know who I'm talking about, but what matter is it of yours? After all, it's not you I'm talking about. Why are you so bothered?" Well, so even Lianxin is meaner in the novel, and Aro here is not just giving out unprovoked attacks, she was, clapping back, as the kids say. RuYi doesn't blame her for the mean eunuch marriage joke she makes here, and Lianxin runs off. As for Lianxin's marriage, there's no hiding it here. The empress knows how much this sucks, but she wants Wang on her side. She is deliberately holding Lianxin's siblings hostage to make sure she marries without a fuss, knowing how desperate Lianxin is to escape this marriage. Aro gets more of an attitude and starts trying to catch the emperor's eye. RuYi lays into her, but it's not coming out of nowhere this time. She has been trying and trying to get Aro to get with the program. Lianxin is married, and everyone here is screaming that night. Lian-shin comes to return RuYi's napkin the next morning. Aro gets too mouthy, is overheard, and punished by Hui. Hui has her maid take a sharp hairpin and start stabbing Aro with it until RuYi kneels down to beg for leniency. Aro is punished to kneel, and RuYi gets to transcribe scriptures. Aro returns, and they immediately fall into another big argument, with Aro in disbelief that RuYi blames her for standing up for her and getting back at Lian-shin for her disrespectful words, and RuYi in disbelief that Aro still doesn't understand that this doesn't help her at all. RuYi promises that she won't protect her the next time this happens. Mei, who is pregnant, starts eating a ton of shrimp. Lian-shin is saved by RuYi and tells her eunuch Wang has been abusing her. She says she told the Empress, and the Empress told her to just deal with it, and even said she wasn't allowed to kill herself or her family would suffer. RuYi tells Lian-shin she will help her, but she has to hold on. Mei delivers her bad omen baby, and that's it! The end of book 1, and just when I started recapping the novel along with the drama. Till next time, thanks for watching. She comforts her, but reminds her that she knew this was an inevitability. She comforts her, but reminds her that she knew this was an inevitability. It's inevitable. Inevitability. Okay. Reminds her that she knew this was an inevitable. Oh my god!